Welcome to Beyond the Bottom Line on the future of women's awakening, fulfillment and success with Letitia Cook of Women Up Limited and Didi Ananda Rashmika of Mujer Despierta.
Hello, today is the inaugural episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, a monthly exploration about women's awakening and fulfillment so that all women may reach their full potential, being their full feminine selves, which we think is really important. I'm joined by Didi Ananda Rashmika. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, such as what is success, both inner and outer, the importance of health, or if we can't put full focus on health, at least of good balance, fulfillment, freedom of choice, our purpose in life, resilience. This is something that we both think is very important because it can really help people understand how useful setbacks and struggles and things like that can be in actually reaching success. We also thought we'd talk about spiritual practice because this can be a great base for personal growth. So we'll probably have one program about that. Which will include things like the workings of the mind, dealing with emotions and fears, and the things that we really struggle with sometimes. Another thing, because Didi's very much into yoga, as am I, but she's the real expert, we're going to include something about the working of the asanas, which is the yoga postures, and how they can help the endocrine system, regulating glands and hormones. And these relate as well to the mind, the emotions. So therefore you can feel much better from yoga practice. We'll also be giving you practical tips and tweaks, things to do with the way we've been brought up, what we believe unconsciously without really being aware of it. And then also things like the ideals that have been imposed on us, the things that really stop us being as free as we want. So that's enough of me giving you a long list, because I'm sure you want to get down to hearing about the main topic of today, which is what is success, both inner and outer success. So hi Didi, I know you're a real expert about this because you were so successful in the city and now you're so successful here. So tell me, what do you think about success? What is it? What can it be for different people? And what do you think is the difference between inner and outer success?
Hi, Anna, and all listeners. In the definition of success that we're many times confronted with is the idea of social success, which I would refer to as the outer success. Mm-hmm. The societal success of a good job, good career, good house, car, etc., all those things outside of myself, which in society are valued, give a certain kind of status. Someone is successful when they have a good job that pays well and they can afford good holidays far away to the sun. But what we find, what we can see, and all of us have examples of that in our lives, is that there are many people with that type of outer success who resort to alcohol, drugs, lots of unhealthy things in order to fill a void that they may feel inside. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone who has that kind of outer success actually feels happy, fulfilled. Happy and fulfilled basically are the key ingredients for the inner success. When one wakes up in the morning feeling good about life and what they're doing, making a contribution even. Well, that is usually a result of feeling good inside.
Yeah. But what I believe, and tell me if you agree as well, I think we should focus on this inner success actually becoming part of the outer success. So we end up with a real holistic success. Because I agree with you totally what you're saying, that what people class as success, in quotation marks, is always material. Yeah. And they don't think about things like health, like fitness, like fulfillment, even at work. I mean, you can be fulfilled at work. They don't think about freedom of choice because they've been conditioned, probably unconsciously, because a lot of us really aren't aware of why we're doing something. We just have this feeling of tiredness or lack of energy or frustration, or even just we're uneasy, we're not comfortable in our own skin. And a lot of this is to do with having a conflict inside us to what we really want to do deep down that's got hidden somehow with what we think we want to do, because everybody around us is saying, you should, this is good, blah, blah, blah. And it doesn't really sit with us. I mean,
rather than just side by side, I would say inner success. If inner success precedes the outer success, imagine that you can handle your emotions, you can face your fears, you have the confidence to do what you really want to do, the confidence to follow your dreams, which, as you mentioned many times, gather dust over the years of conditioning. That's not what you should be doing, especially if someone has a dream of, for example, doing something artistic. But in family, it's more appreciated to study law, medicine, or accounting, or whatever, something that is more solid in the society as such, or that can give more money and status, etc. And if you can control your mind, you can control your emotions, you can control your fears, you can, that kind of inner success. Don't you think it'd be very easy after that to attain outer success? If you have the confidence and the drive and the resilience to resist possible so-called failure, or to deal with whatever will come on your way of fulfilling that dream or chasing your dream.
Yes.
The outer success is look, anyone who has ever tried to meditate knows that the mind is like a mad monkey, right?
Exactly.
So imagine you be able to control your mind and your fears and your emotions, and you can handle all of that.
Yes.
Then what? Chasing something in the outside world, like your dream job, is less of a big deal.
Yes. Yeah.
If you have all the confidence, the self-esteem, etc.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I don't know. Control to me sometimes can block creativity.
Oh, maybe I should explain when I say control of emotions.
Yeah, I don't mean more of release.
Well, I don't mean control in the sense of this rigid kind of, we put it in a box and with this stoic face we continue our journey. Not at all. I mean, you know me a bit, and that's not how I do things.
No, you're great.
In the sense of not being controlled by your emotions.
Yes. Okay.
We usually talk about control in that sense, right? But for example, okay, I can. I have a fear, but I can handle it.
Yes.
I have a passion. I channelize it in such a way that it helps me. I have an attachment, but I can let go of it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Maybe the better way is to say to not be controlled by your emotions, or to rather have a balanced and healthy relationship with your emotions, because there's no way you are going to be free from anger. But to express anger in the right way with the right people, in a way that it doesn't eat you up, but it creates a better situation outside, that's an art.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And so if we think back, obviously it's difficult. Think of me at my age, and as a lot of you will know, I am one of the more mature ladies around. Mature in number of years, possibly not mentally, but never mind. For somebody like me, with all the years of working in business, of growing up in the type of background I had, which was lovely, but you had the habit of certain things were good, certain things were bad, certain things were okay, and there was an expectation of what you were going to do. And then in business, there's an expectation that you are going to go for a seat on the board, or you're going to try and become a director, or you're going to lead a company, or, you know, it's all ambition, higher level, etc.
Yeah.
How do you think we can become aware of what is almost conditioning that we follow without questioning, and how can we peel away some of those layers to get back to the free spirit that's within us? And I don't mean free spirit woo woo hippie, you know, crazy, but the freedom to choose, the uninfluenced part of us, which is normally where our creativity, our passion, our purpose, our energy really lies. Have you got any ideas for how to do that?
I think what is really important, especially in the current world where we're online almost 24/7, to have time offline by yourself.
Yeah.
Now, in nature, or in a secluded place, or just in your own home, but undisturbed by others, and offline, as in to connect with yourself. For that, you need time by yourself.
Yes.
Right. That's and having time to develop hobbies. Now, that's really important for the younger generation. I'm not quite as mature as you, but I'm not 18 anymore either. It would be really good. Of course, we have people who have children or adolescents, or if children have time to develop hobbies, so they develop themselves, they develop interests, they know what they really like to do. That's a really important part of self-development.
Yes.
I think kids now with more online time get less time for that. And why is it so important to develop hobbies? Because you get an idea of where your interests lie.
Yes.
If you're passionate about the work that you do, it doesn't matter if you would be paid for it or not, you know. Yeah. Like one way to figure out if you're passionate about something or not is to say, would I be doing this work if I wouldn't be paid for it?
Good question. Exactly. Yeah.
And if you'll be doing that work, okay, something of my personal background, even when I was studying applied mathematics, even before I went to London to work in the city, I remember doing my usual studies, and I had started reading self-development books about mind and it was like a new world to me. And I could be reading those books for 3 hours and I would feel 5 minutes had passed.
Yes.
And I would have to go back to my my maths, and 3 hours really felt like 3 hours or more. and it's not, I mean, I love maths but there was something that really spoke to me about developing myself. And I mean, now I don't even, some of those books, if I read them again, I'm like, oh no, I would be doing this differently, I'd be doing this differently. But of course, that's part of a process. Yeah. But the realization that I would be doing that and the time would fly means you're in a certain flow.
Yeah.
That really gives you an idea of that's what you're interested in doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I know
that we need to dedicate time at that. Dedicate time at either reading or exploring, because if we don't, how are we going to figure out what's going on inside?
Yeah, yeah. I know one of the questions that I give when I'm coaching, you know, for people that want to really discover themselves and who they are and really get to know themselves, is what games did you play when you were a child? What make-believe games did you play? And were they games that you came up with or games that your parents taught you to do? Because normally the ones that we come up with and invent ourselves, they're very close to where our passions lie. And similarly for films, when you watch a film or when you read a book, if you really associate yourself with certain heroes or anti-heroes, it's what characteristic, what character trait that they have that you really associate with, or you're inspired by, or you feel is good or bad, because that's such a good way of helping you, I suppose, retrieve your values or your beliefs, which maybe have got hidden over the years because of what life throws at us and because of the different paths we take. And I think that can be a great way to get back deep down, to peel the layers away and try to get like a solid base of where you are and where you want to be.
It's interesting you mentioned childhood, and I hadn't thought even about this for a long, long time. Surely I'm not the only one who was in a school and we were sometimes asked to write, even to write prayers.
Yes.
Or to write some creative writing as a kid in primary school.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about it for a long time, but when I was little, even one of those was published in a school journal, like that was still stenciled at that time. And it was like, if children would rule the world.
Yes.
And all the things I was writing was about, well, I want to change the world. I want to change the world.
Yeah.
And similar prayers more in the sense of, what do you wish for the world?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting that it took me, some years of doing many other things before I could come back to this. But I think that's also, which is important, because my idea from when I was little, well, the way to save the world is like you'd have to be a doctor, which is not my kind of thing, or a social worker, or, and I would never study sociology because all that kind of reading was not my thing. I like the clear-cut approach of mathematics.
Yeah.
While now, of course, I know that there's many other ways to do that. And I even remember when I was walking one day after working in the city, working in the office in the city, I was walking to the tube station, and I remember feeling or sensing like there is a job for me out there. I just haven't met it yet. Because if 20 years ago someone would have told me you would have become a nun, I'm like, no way. Right? Because the kind of ideas that I had of what it means to be a nun, growing up in a Catholic family, etc., I couldn't identify with that.
Yeah.
So there's many times when we are younger, we don't have the complete vision of the possibilities that there are.
Yes.
Of how you can express a certain kind of dream in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
What kind of jobs, so-called jobs, or types of work are available? Everybody knows the baker and the teacher and the pilot.
Yeah.
But many other things not. And there's so much more variety in which we can make our contribution to the world or to the society than what we are presented with earlier on.
Yeah.
I think for that, again, very important to have own time. Read. There's so many blogs of people doing amazing things in the world.
Yeah.
Get ideas, nourish your mind.
Yes, yeah, I agree. But also, I think a lot of us, when we choose what we want to do or don't want to do, particularly if we're teenagers at the time, a lot of it is strongly influenced either by parental guidance in one direction or another, or rebellion against the parental guidance, or the school system or something like that. Because I know my mother, I had two big dreams when I was a kid, and I'm not doing either of them, but please believe me, I do like what I'm doing, so but it was either to be a ballerina, and I started doing ballet when I was 3, and I absolutely loved it. And I was asked to go and audition at one of the ballet schools, and my mother supported me in that. Now, my mother and I always had a slightly conflictual relationship, even from the age of about 8, and so I refused because she wanted me to. And I've regretted it, obviously, but that was my act of rebellion. Then the other thing I was really interested in, because my dad was a farmer, and so we all had agricultural, rural hobbies, things like that. I wanted to breed horses, which my vision was I would take over the farm and I would breed horses on the farm instead of fruit. But my mother was completely against that and absolutely freaked at the whole idea. So that she, because of the difficult situation, I didn't. But then my school wanted me to sit for Oxbridge, and they were really insistent. And I couldn't think of anything worse. For me, it was the biggest nightmare. But it's really interesting to see, just looking at myself, for anyone who's listening, look at me as an example of how I didn't do what I wanted because of the influence from, school, from parents, etc. And it took me 30 years, 30 years, it must have been at least 30 years for me to realise that I wasn't doing what I wanted and to realise why. So I think it's incredible how we can get distracted by things and we're just not aware of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's why so many people, when they think about success, they're really not sure. And also people at work, often they've got this lack of energy or frustration, or just something seems to be missing. Yeah. And I'm sure that this is something to do with the conflict of what success really is for each individual person. And it's almost like we try to put ourselves in somebody else's pigeonhole.
Yeah.
What do you think? Have you seen that with your experience? I mean, both in the city and also now with the work that you're doing. Have you seen those type of things?
Oh, absolutely. There is when we have retreats, which are kind of self-development, spiritual retreats. For example, we have many accountants. For some reason, when we have a retreat, there's always a few accountants.
Oh, really?
Because many times people follow what their parents had in mind for them.
Yes.
It's not only your story, of course. Raising horses and ballet sounds, but honestly, I actually thought of doing accounting early and I did maths instead. But I also, when I was little, I wanted to be a hairdresser and a skiing teacher, and I went through a whole set of things. But to many times, it's a safe option.
Yeah.
A lot of it has to do with the safe option, right?
Yeah.
Maybe your mother actually had a dream to be a ballerina herself.
She did, yes.
Right. I think that's another thing. Parents want to do their kids to do what they didn't have the opportunity to do.
Yes.
Well, for all the parents out there, it's very important to be aware of this in their own lives, reflecting on it, and so that they don't repeat the same with their own children.
Yeah.
I see it a lot. People have chosen the safe option or the option that their parents chose for them, and not doing what they wanted to do. And then what we get to is, unfortunately, the situation where people work in a job that they don't really like, but it pays the bills and it pays their lifestyle, or to whatever extent, and they live for the weekend, which I think is a real pity. Because if we can do what we really love to do, sometimes people tell me, but you don't get holidays, or you don't have weekends. And I'm like, well, if I do what I love to do, what's the difference if it's a Sunday or a Monday?
Yes.
Like, if you love to do the things that you do on the weekends, and you could do this the whole week around, what's the point of having a weekend separately? I'm like, instead of saying I don't have holidays, well, I work really hard, but it's not that I don't have holidays. It's rather I enjoy myself all the time. Isn't that 1,000 times better?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
But I think it's extremely common that people follow parents' dreams out of, depending on how pushy the parents are, but even out of fear, even if the parents are not pushy, out of a desire to please the parents.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But the good news is that, especially now in this era of a lot of change, it's not anymore that people have jobs for life. And there's a lot of information available for free online. You can study in your own times, which wasn't possible before to the same extent. People can keep developing their passions even after work, until they've built it up to such a point that can support them in their life, and then they can let go of the job that they really didn't like. Now there are those possibilities, but it depends very much on if someone has the flexibility of mind, yes, and the courage and the confidence to do it.
Yeah.
And the determination, really, because meaning studying and developing your passion after work means maybe less time on television.
Yes.
From TV.
So just to finish up, with the retreats you do, the self-development, things like that, give us one tip or one example or one baby step that we can think about to help us try and find this balance of inner and outer success, to try and make our success more representative of who we really are inside, and to be holistic. Because for me, that's the key to everything, that it's holistic.
One step would be spending a day, well, the timing is flexible, of course, but spending a good amount of time alone, disconnected, and reflect on what, like you said earlier, reflect on the things that you used to dream about, the things you wanted to do, the things that really that you're passionate about, the things that give you joy, the ways in which you like to make other people happy, really a deep self-reflection, and disconnected from your own environment, disconnected online, offline, and I was going to use a Spanish word there, offline, and with pen and paper only. Because just to keep it dreamy also doesn't work. When we write things down, we are forced to put one thought after the other.
Yes.
But to really start with a self-reflection.
Yeah, I would take it one step further with you saying, write it down. I'd say create a vision board.
Yeah.
Because those as well, starting with writing it down and getting the ideas you're absolutely right, it's the best way of doing it, because you can really create some things that are totally you. But then if you put them on a vision board that you see regularly, it reinforces it, and it helps you ask more questions about yourself. And I think this is the key for those of you that want to maybe question where you're going, maybe bring a bit more fulfillment, a bit more of the real you into your life. It's about letting things come from deep inside you and looking at them and analysing them and let them float through your brain rather than being too rigid. Exactly like you're saying, Didi. I think that's a great idea.
One key point is don't put limits on your dreams.
Yes.
And we're talking here about dreams, about your passion, not about, well, I want a big villa, etc., etc. That's easy easy. You may not even need it anymore when you're really passionate about what you do. Yes. But don't put limits on, like, oh, but that's not possible. Who am I to think like that? When you catch yourself having those thoughts, write those down as well, because that's something you need to work on. Yes. And when I say writing down, I don't necessarily mean line after line. It can be a mind map, or can be, or when you draw, or when you, whatever way comes easily